The Power of Agile, hosted by Nagarro.
Welcome to the Power of Agile, the podcast where we dive deep into the dynamic world of agile practices and uncover the wisdom and sometimes the hilarity behind what works and what doesn't. I'm your host, Gurpreet, and today's episode is all about Impractical Agile, what not to do. Agile can be a game changer, but what happens when it's misunderstood, misapplied, or taken to extremes? We're talking about the common mistakes, the shortcuts that don't work, and the so-called agile practices that miss the mark. Whether it's endless stand-ups with no real purpose, sprints that lead nowhere, or adapting agile buzzwords without the mindset to back them up, we're here to explore how agile can go awry and what to avoid to keep your team truly agile. If you're ready to get real about what agile is not, stay tuned as we break down the don'ts of agile for a smoother, more effective journey. So with that in mind, let me introduce our guest speaker today, Eugen Rosenfeld. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. And nice meeting you, Gurpreet. And thanks a lot for the invitation and giving me the opportunity to address this topic, which sometimes can be quite challenging topic for some people. And many times people they don't really understand how impractical agile will affect their day-to-day life. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. We're really looking forward to get stuck into this topic today. But before we do, I've got some questions for you, which are slightly less technical. So if it's okay, let's start with those.
Yeah, let's do that.
Lovely. So firstly, what's one agile buzzword or phrase that you wish would just disappear forever?
Oh my God. I will tell you some misconceptions. And many times I hear these misconceptions. Like, for instance, agile is a process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people are usually doing a parallel between agile and methodologies, like, for instance, Scrum and Kanban. But
Right.
agile for me, it's a state of mind, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily a methodology or a process. So this I would like to take out from any conversation regarding agile. So just keep in mind that agile is a state of mind,
Yeah,
not a
not a
process.
process.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And secondly, what's your go-to karaoke song?
No. I'm into karaoke. In
Yeah.
fact, when I was younger, I was also a part of a choir, and I sang there for a few years. And I think the song which I don't know I like the best to sing in karaoke is "Love Me Tender" of Elvis Presley, because
Oh, a classic.
a
Yeah.
classic. Yeah,
Okay. Hey, that's okay, that's cool. I mean, mine's is Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah,
Okay,
you can
yeah,
never go wrong. It's the only
too
song where
fast
I
for
actually
me.
know the lyrics, right?
I could say that also for me is the same. "Love Me
Yeah.
Tender" is one song I know the lyrics, and I'm not capable to sing fast-paced songs, right? I'm
Yeah,
most
yeah.
into slow songs like Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, for instance, these kind
Yeah.
of songs.
You're definitely up the classical street there.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And finally then, if you had to give a TED talk on a completely random topic outside of your field, what would it be about?
I'm such a binary thinker. It's very
Mm-hmm.
difficult for me to select randomly topics. Um, but if I would have to facilitate a topic into a discussion into a FedEx talk, I would discuss about gravity, because it's a topic which drew my attention a lot, and right now it's something I'm studying it, because nowadays still there is a big question mark on what gravity is. And I think I have some interesting concepts there and interesting ideas.
Okay, so then we should stay tuned for this upcoming TED Talk, right?
There are a few things I still have to cover there, which includes a lot of mathematics. And I'm not at that level yet, but yes, definitely. When I will figure out those aspects, let's look forward
Yeah, we look
for a
forward
talk.
to it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing. And now let's get to know more about Impractical Agile. So tell me, what are some of the common mistakes you've seen teams make when trying to implement Agile?
Yeah. So based on my experience and what I've seen in projects, people are still going too much by the process. Right. And first of all, what they are thinking to do when they discuss about implementing Agile, they first select a methodology and they discuss about should we, deliver this project using Scrum, Kanban, nowadays Safe. Everybody discuss about Safe
Yes.
instead of thinking on aspects which are more important, aspects related, for instance, to team cohesion, right? And how you tackle problems in an agile manner, not necessarily how you tackle them respecting those ceremonies in the methodology, right? So this is, I think, one of the biggest mistakes colleagues are doing it when they try to deliver something with agile methodology. And keep in mind, agile was created there mostly for small projects, right? In
Right.
order to give them flexibility to adapt very fast to a changing environment. Yeah. If you stick too much to a certain methodology, then you might lose from flexibility and
Yeah.
adaptability, which is something Agile recommends a lot as
hmm
principles.
So my understanding is that teams tend to select certain agile methodologies to use as a basis, let's say. And what I'm hearing based on what you said is that they may start off like that by selecting a specific methodology, framework, whatever it might be, but then they stay on that track too much. They follow it right down to the T, and that means that there's no flexibility in
Yes,
adapting. I
yes.
see. Okay.
And because focusing too much on the process, so Scrum and Kanban and Safe, they are still processes.
hmm
Now, people are calling them methodologies because it's nicer, but they are
Yeah.
still processes, right? And
hmm
you can, if you fall too much on the trap, which is coming with following a process, then you will lose the principles. Yeah, and there are few principles in Agile, and people should follow them, right?
Yeah.
In order to keep have those that flexibility and adaptability in the project. So I think this is
Absolutely.
the
Mhm.
biggest mistake people are doing when they do Agile on their projects.
Right. Okay. And based on your experience, then, what would you say is the biggest misconception, right, about Agile that in the end results in impractical implementations?
So I think I also mentioned when we did the introduction, right,
Yeah.
that Agile is treated as process,
hmm
not as a state of mind, right? And also, people, they don't follow the manifesto, right? So, and
Right.
many times they forget that there is a manifesto
hmm
giving some principles, some ideas on how to think when you want to be agile. And the biggest misconception is when you do an agile project, you have to do Scrum or you have to do safe.
Okay.
Not that you have to think on those principles, and
Mm.
not that the most important aspect is to help the client, right, to reach the vision. That's the most important aspect, not necessarily the steps on how you get the client to reach that vision by implementing a certain process. So, from my point of view, the misconception is that when we do agile, we have to think on the process.
Of course. Okay. I see. And so based on that, is there a particular story that you're referring to here where an agile transformation might have went off the rails, or something went wrong? I sense that you've got some sort of experience with this.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have too many.
Okay.
And but I will give us an example. I would say the biggest one I've seen, right? So we had this client. I won't tell his name,
Mm-hmm.
and the client developed all the projects using waterfall as a
Right.
process. In fact, it was rational unified process used there to develop the project, and somehow make sense for those type of projects. But the client decided now we want to be agile, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because not necessarily because it was needed in their context, but because it was a buzzword, right? And everybody
Right.
wanted at that time to start to implement and be agile. And guess what? Agile as a mindset doesn't work on all the types of projects. Usually works best in small projects with small teams, right?
Right.
And projects that have
Teams of which size? Sorry.
um, at max, I would say at max 6 to 8.
6 to 8. Okay.
After that size, you have to think on a different approach, but we can also discuss about that.
Okay.
Now, in some projects, and when the projects are big and you have too many dependencies during the development of that project, sometimes, I don't know, other approaches like waterfall works pretty well. Now, but the
Mm-hmm.
client wanted agile. They said, no, we want agile. We want to do Scrum, because they also understood that, okay, we need a process, right? We cannot just get the mindset of agile. And
Mm-hmm.
they selected Scrum as a methodology to implement. And the first thing they did, and we also did that. Yeah, we were part of that transformation, and I'll take a blame on that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing we did was to accommodate a big waterfall process to deliver projects into Scrum, and we defined sprints of 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. Now,
Okay.
when you have something like that defined,
Mm-hmm.
sprints of 3 months, that's a high flavor of waterfall there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Scrum, if you take a look on it, it's still a waterfall, but executed in very small iterations of, I don't know, 1 to 2 weeks, right?
Which is the general norm, right? Because
Yes.
I have to say any of the projects that I've worked on, from what I can recall, there's never been sprints of 3 months. So that is
Yeah.
quite a
Yeah,
big gap.
sprints of 3 months. That's I would say a mechanism to accommodate integration with other teams like testing, and so usually you aim for 2 weeks at
Yeah.
max.
Mm-hmm.
But with this client, and this was also our recommendation at that time because we didn't also have that much experience. We went to 3 months sprints,
Yeah.
and um, we also decided to have in each part of the sprint a period allocated just for design. and then the team start the implementation. And that was obviously, in fact, it was a waterfall, but we just reduced the waterfall from 6 to 1 year to 3 months, but still being waterfall. So that was a failure. That was
Of
totally a
course,
failure.
because you don't have that quick feedback loop,
Exactly.
right? You're spending so much time on developments
Exactly.
and then realizing it might not be in line with what was expected.
And also we lost flexibility, and
Mm-hmm.
we lost fast reactions, right? Because
Right.
we defined everything at the beginning of the sprint, and then the client had to stick because it was a commitment there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had to stick to what was committed for 3 months. And we lost a lot of flexibility because it was very difficult to readapt the scope for those
Yeah.
3 months, right?
And yeah, and it sounds like there's a strong overemphasis almost on following some sort of an agile methodology or framework.
Yeah, we respect no framework there. If
Yeah.
we had the
So
ceremonies.
it wasn't done, it didn't begin with the intention of having the waterfall.
No, we
No,
just
okay, it just became that, right.
it just became that. So initially we started discussing about let's have sprints of 1 week. So we
Mm-hmm.
started with that, and we discussed on ceremonies and so. But then we started to analyze what have to be delivered and what are
Right.
the dependency.
Mm-hmm.
And then we said, okay, 1 week is not enough. We need 2 weeks. And then we analyzed more, then we got to 3 months. And this, I think that the reason for that was lack of experience on our
Right.
end
Mm-hmm.
as consultants, because we were also scared on the size of that project, and
Mm-hmm.
we fall into the trap of comfort, saying, okay, it's much more comfortable to think in terms of long durations of times for releases instead
Right.
of just keeping the mindset of agile and ensure that the flexibility can be present there.
I
And
see.
since then, we learned, because we have many clients now which are working with waterfall, but we
Mm-hmm.
deliver, for instance, with Scrum, right?
Yeah.
And how do we call that is water Scrum fall. Yeah.
Okay.
So we deliver everything in small iteration, being
Yeah.
always prepared to change and to shift, yeah, in cases needed.
Yeah. And
But
that
the final
sounds,
deliverables will be according to client process, which is waterfall.
of course, of course. And do you think there's any cultural or mindset challenges which can make agile impractical in certain industries or organizations?
Yeah. So first of all, don't try to, I don't know, force agile in
Mm-hmm.
places where it's not needed. Yeah.
Right.
So just stick with what is working for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If waterfall works, use waterfall. Right. Don't try to force it just because it's nice to have it and people likes to think they are agile, because to be agile, and again, sorry for repeating this, but this is very important. To be agile is a state of mind, and if you cannot be there at that
Mm-hmm.
level, you will fail. You will definitely fail, and you will also lose, I don't know, positions, and you will lose those moments, yeah, having, I don't know, satisfaction of doing something right, because you will see you will struggle
Yeah.
just
Mm-hmm.
forcing agile in situations where other methods works much better.
Yeah. And do you think this somewhat comes from leadership, for example? Like, is it more that they want to implement being agile? Is that where you kind of say, okay, don't force it?
That's a very interesting question,
Yeah.
because what I've seen so far, it's coming from both sides. Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes from top to bottom, and many times from bottom to top. And when I say top to bottom, it's leadership of the organization. When I
Mm-hmm.
say bottom to top, is the teams which are involved in delivery. Now,
Right.
imagine you are in a delivery team and you worked for many years with methods which are considered nowadays being outdated.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, you would like to try something new. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you will ask, let's be agile. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when it's coming from bottom to top. But then there are also situations like, for instance, the leadership of the organization asks for agile, just believing or hoping this will increase the productivity because
Mm-hmm.
they will deliver faster, right? So I
Right.
think it's coming from the both sides. And sometimes leadership is asking to for a transformation just because it's a nice thing to be agile and sounds right. Yeah.
Back to those buzzwords again.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so with that in mind now, right, what are some of the red flags that teams should watch out for to avoid falling into the trap of impractical agile?
Yeah. Very good question. So I would say the the flex should be the following. So for instance, the first one is lack of accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you see, you follow the method, the selected methodology, the selected framework, right? But
Mm-hmm.
you have a lack of accomplishment. After each sprint, you deliver nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a flag. That's a flag that something is wrong there. Maybe you didn't adjust the scope accordingly, right? In order to have that feeling of accomplishment. Accomplishment, it's a very, very important feeling when you do agile, all right?
Right.
Then another flag is feedback not being incorporated. And I can give an example. During retrospectives, team is giving feedback, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the and the feedback should be to the process and to the way of working, right?
Okay.
What went well, what didn't, and then just decide on actions to take. So you get with those actions to take, you give feedback to the process, right?
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
many times people they don't follow up on those, yeah, so they don't incorporate the feedback into their way of doing. That's a red flag.
Right.
Then lack of improvements.
Mm-hmm.
You still do the same things, right? Usually this is not normal. You should improve every time. You should continuously improve,
With
right?
each iteration. Yeah.
With each iteration. And even, for instance, if you see that something doesn't work, don't
Mm-hmm.
struggle. Don't try to make it work. Just drop it, right? And change it, right?
Okay.
And I give an example. Don't struggle with Scrum if
Mm-hmm.
Kanban works much better in that situation. Just
Right.
kill the Scrum and switch to Kanban and switch back to Scrum whenever needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the team should be very flexible in the frameworks they use in order to deliver a project and keep that agility in mind. Another flag, working in silos. So when you have a
Yes.
team and you see, yeah, that not necessarily each participant
Mm-hmm.
is in silos, but even groups, yeah, inside of the team, they are in silos. No, working in silos, it's a red flag. You are not doing right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, the testing team should always know what the delivery team is doing. And the delivery team should always know what the testing team is doing, and also what the UX UI team is doing, and also what the BA is doing. And yeah, so everybody should be connected with everybody. That's
Yeah.
the reason why Agile doesn't work well in big teams, because it's much difficult to bring collaboration,
You
right?
lose
In
that,
big
yeah,
teams.
because of the size.
Exactly. There are other strategies. It is safe. Try somehow to bring big teams, enterprise level projects into Agile, or Scrum of Scrums, right? And then you have integration meetings between the teams. And
Right.
the last one I'm think of right now is fuzzy roles and responsibilities. So people, they don't know exactly what role they have,
Mm-hmm.
or they don't know exactly what roles the colleagues have into the team, and also they don't know exactly what responsibilities are there, right?
Right. What
So
responsibilities fall upon them and which fall upon others within the team?
exactly, like for instance, what the team expects from me
Mm-hmm.
and what I expect from the team, right? So these kind of confusions, also it's a red flag that you didn't understand exactly how to apply the framework, right, in your project.
Right. So some interesting red flags you've highlighted there. And with those in mind now, what steps can an organization take to reset an impractical agile implementation? So imagine we have an organization, uh, they are falling into some of these traps that you've just mentioned. How would you advise them to, yeah, to almost break what they have right now and get back on track the correct way?
Yeah, tough question. Because usually you don't have a recipe here. Depends
Mm-hmm.
from organization to organization. But what I believe can work is to do a step back, yeah, and visit again agile as a concept,
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily, for instance, force the team to take trainings, get certificates into Scrum, get certificates into Safe, hoping for the best, that having a certificate that somehow certificates the fact that you can be agile, right? So just do a step back and take again a look on those 12 principles of agile,
Mm-hmm.
right? And read them. See, are those principles followed or not? If they aren't followed, right, try somehow to, I don't know, organize workshops with
Mm-hmm.
teams in order to bring back those principles to them and help them to incorporate those principles into their methodology, into their frameworks, right? So not necessarily just follow the frameworks by the book, right? But
Mm-hmm.
also have in mind the 12 principles of Agile.
Okay, I see. And it sounds like you should also have regular check-in sessions, to make sure that everyone is aligned. I guess this is it will serve that purpose as well, where you check in
Good,
with the agile principles, but it's also an opportunity to make sure everyone is aligned and clear on everything.
good point. Good point. Because usually an organization, if wants to implement something,
Mm-hmm.
it should also monitor that part, right?
Right.
Is not enough just to ask, for instance, ask the organization from tomorrow, we are agile, please certify on Scrum, and start to apply Scrum or Kanban or any other frameworks into their
Mm-hmm.
project, hoping for the best, right? They should
Yeah.
also monitor. And in order to monitor, you should put some KPIs in place, right?
I
So
see.
first you have to define the KPIs. Now, the biggest question here is which KPIs indicates the agile level you have. Now, I could give some examples of KPIs I have in mind, also based on the manifesto. For instance, in the manifesto, the first principle there is individuals and interactions over processes and tools.
Okay, yeah, makes
Yeah.
sense.
How do we interpret this? There should be a lot of collaborations between the parties who are developing something, right? When you see that, I don't know, people are asking too much about the tools. I need Jira, I need DevOps, I need that, I need that, I need that. I cannot start the project without having my environment prepared on or so. Or for instance, when you see that in the organization, too many processes are defined and you have to have so many trainings on the processes, yeah, that might be an indicator that the KPI related to collaborations between individuals, right, is not met. Yeah.
It's
So,
interesting.
or another one, customer collaboration over contract negotiations. Yeah. When you see that you are in too many escalations regarding contracts, discussing change requests, right? Stuff like this. This might be a flag that you lost agility. Yeah, you lost
True.
flexibility. You want everything to be covered by a contract, right? And everything should be treated as a commitment, right? So you lose collaboration with your customer.
Yeah, you lose
These are
flexibility as
just
well.
some examples of KPIs you might, I don't know, monitor in order to see if you are really agile or not. So I would say monitoring is the most important mechanism to check the agility.
Yeah, it's absolutely correct. It's one of the fundamentals of the ways how can you check and actually see or measure success even. And I think it's a really, really interesting thought. And that concludes this episode. So, Eugene, thank you for sharing insights into impractical agility. It's been really enlightening to hear your thoughts on this and insightful as well.
And thank you also for inviting me. And I really hope this information and everything we discuss here. And by the way, I enjoyed a lot this conversation. Hopefully, this will help. I don't know, our colleagues and everybody who is listening to this podcast, in order to start and think again on the agile and on the agile manifesto. And I encourage people to go read again the agile manifesto and do the best to incorporate it in their day-to-day life. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean it was definitely insightful. I think the audience, especially for our listeners out there, if you've enjoyed the ride, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Now, before we part ways, let's recap some key kind of takeaways from this episode that we've done today. So, Eugene, is there anything you want to leave the audience with in particular?
I will encourage the audience to start again the agile and start to not think that much in processes anymore. Of course, processes are healthy and it's a good thing to follow because it brings repeatability and it standardizes the way you do stuff, ensuring a certain level of quality. But following them too much, you will lose agility and creativity. And customers need that, right? You have to be supportive to them. You have to consult them, not necessarily just ensure to deliver for them. And this is empowered by an agile mindset.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, I mean, a key takeaway for me was that the ideal team size should be between 6 and 8 individuals to encourage that collaboration aspect, to make sure that everyone is aligned and on the same page. And secondly, I think it's a really important thing to highlight the way in which we can define success. So actually having some KPIs in mind prior to beginning the project, to actually have that as a point of reference as you go along, right? We all need to be able to measure success in some way. So I think that's a really critical point that you mentioned there.
Indeed.
So thank you
Nice
once again.
summarization.
Yeah, no, thank you once again, Eugen, for joining us. And to our listeners, if you do have any questions, please send an email to aqt@nagarro.com or connect with us on LinkedIn.